I think what Mr. Trudeau said was probably true, that there's a certain difference in the weight we give to the accuser or the accused. But in defense of the accused, these accusations are humiliating and degrading. And if they are innocent, I mean, their careers have been damaged and their chances of re-election have been damaged. They, of course, have to have the right to defend themselves, do they not?
Yeah, they have the right to defend themselves. But what about the victims?
Yep.
That's mostly what happened. We forget about the victim, their rights. I don't know. The Conservatives were made aware today. We were made aware. What about the victim? Did they know that it will come up today? Did they know that they will be facing what they face today, those victims?
All right, so the issue of sexual harassment is now a coast-to-coast discussion in this country, and the allegations are extremely serious and have serious consequences. The silver lining maybe in this whole CBC sex scandal and what Jian Ghomeshi is accused of is that women are now, and men, feeling empowered, like they have the strength and are now for the first time able to come forward. There is something about power in numbers, but there is a danger when a movement turns into a witch hunt, and it can happen very, very quickly. Let's bring in Ross McLean, Sonia Shukman to talk about this. You, of course, dealing with the criminal matter as a criminal lawyer, you see this kind of thing in the court. So I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Because to come out and accuse someone, and I am not diminishing any of the complaints that have come forward. So I want to be very clear. I am not saying for a moment that none of these complaints should be not taken seriously. However, I do know that when you get a huge national story and it is all anyone is talking about, there will be those who say, I'm going to speak out and I'm going to say someone sexually harassed me. But it is a pretty serious accusation that can have a lot of consequences if in fact it's not true.
Alex, I couldn't agree with you more. And in fact, I think I've spoken on your show and on Jerry's show before that I think that the one place where we still see wrongful convictions, where we still see the danger of it is in sexual assault, sexual harassment allegations. It is always a matter of credibility between the complainant and the person accused. The danger of that is you don't have additional evidence. And of course, the flip side, it's a he said, and the judge by law is entitled to be wrong on a factual findings, which means that if he or she applies the law correctly, one judge can believe the accused, one judge can disbelieve the accused, one judge can believe the complainant, one judge can disbelieve the complainant. By definition, there is a great danger for wrongful convictions, and I can tell you that I have defended cases where I really walked close to that line thinking, I am really here standing, is the only person standing between a person who's innocent going away and being branded as a sexual offender for the rest of his life.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ross, because look, as a guy sitting at the table, you know, I think it would be pretty easy for someone to come out and make a flippant comment about Ross McLean coming from a woman. And in this culture that we are in right now, which is hypersensitive to this issue, I mean, once you are branded like that as a guy, it never goes away. That's why I'm always, you know, you got to be very careful with the way that you tell these stories, very careful in the way that you present them.
Yeah, it takes real leadership within companies and places of work to deal with the sexual harassment. And as she said, there's lots of lawyers that go walking with clients that feel pretty confident that they shouldn't be convicted, but they're telling you, I'm sorry, this is a crapshoot when we're going in. Depends on the judge, depends on how they take it, and away we go. But look, part of the deal with this is we need to understand what sexual harassment is. We need to take leadership within companies.
Or in politics. And let me use Justin Trudeau as an example, because he came out yesterday, he got in front of this issue, or some might say he didn't. Maybe it was a political thing for him. But two of his caucus members are now accused. And if you are to believe the reports, these two people don't know what they're accused of, which I think is troubling. And I'm not suggesting that nothing's happened, but I think it would be wrong to suggest that something has happened. I mean, don't they have a right to know what they're accused of?
Well, this is the funny thing we're seeing even in the Jian Ghomeshi gate, if you will. There's all sorts of allegations, but none of them are charges you can sit down and nail them down and answer. And where are you going to answer them if you answer them? So, you know, the issue needs to be here that we need to be well-defined in what we do. And to the court aspect of this, we have to find a way of negotiating or dealing with these things before the courts. That's why I'm saying if you have a company that has leadership, you bring your people and you say, what happened here? What happened here? Let's talk. Let's resolve this. You'll be cautioned. You'll be put on notice. Or maybe, hey, maybe there was nothing to this. Get something down, have it documented on paper, you've got something to work with, because it gets expensive when you're going to court dealing with this, let alone the reputation damage.
Yeah, the reputation damage. But I mean, in the bigger picture, what are we going to see out of this? I mean, are people now going to be going into the workplace and basically turning into statues? Because I would think that there are a few nervous people across this country today who are in powerful positions who might be thinking, geez, I have no idea in the last 20 years who may have, construed something I did as a harassment. And so, do you get the sense that we are in a period where we're going to see massive transitions in the workplace?
Alex, I certainly hope not. I'm with those people who question the timing of Justin Trudeau's investigation. The allegations, we have no idea what they are. And notice, they're not sexual assault in any way. They're sexual harassment. It's a very broad term. It may not even be criminal. It may be something that...
It could be, it could be a joke. Someone could have... I don't know what the...
And I'm not comfortable. And the question is, how far do we want to take it? And the question that we, as women, should ask ourselves is, how far do we want this to be taken? Because it's a thin line before it becomes... where men and women can have no communication whatsoever.
And so there can be a big backlash, and which for the women who have come forward in this case, and kudos to them, it becomes an issue for them, because then all of a sudden, they go from hero to villain very quickly.
I also believe that women, and I've always said that, have to take certain responsibility for their actions and for their behavior. I am not here victimizing the victim. I'm not here saying the victims are at fault. I'm not here saying yes means no, etc., etc. But what I am saying is, when a female engages in a certain flirtatious behavior, it gives a green light for certain men to enter in that flirtatious behavior. At which point does that then become harassment? Is a question that, and then the men are being prosecuted or investigated, or their names being ruined. We have, as women, to take certain responsibility for the behavior that we have and the way we conduct ourselves.
I would think, Ross, it's safe to say we have no... I mean, there are going to be many, many, many more people coming out.
There will be. But look, let's go to her point. There's a couple of sides to this. One, there was a time and place where women used to feel shamed about coming forward. They were disbelieved. Well, what did you do to encourage it? And they were treated horribly.
Yeah.
We've
100%.
changed. The investigations that go on now, same as we do with children, are no. I'm going to believe you. If you're willing to bring this forward, I'm going to believe you. I'm going to look at all your facts, look at it, but then I will then look to see if it's corroborated or it makes sense. So we're much better at doing that now. But, to your point, one of the things I tell people to do every day with every problem in life is document it if you can. If you think someone is giving you a sexual harassment problem at work, they're bothering you, you tell them in no uncertain terms, say, I don't appreciate that.
Right.
I don't appreciate that. And you know what? Write yourself a little memo, even if you just send that memo to yourself.
Sure.
If not copying your boss or them, I don't appreciate that sort of thing. I've got a problem with that. You've got a record the person's been cautioned. And then now you've got something really to go with to show that, number one, the advances were not welcome, and it was clear they weren't welcome, and it was clear there was no consent given for this behavior.
But we live in a very narcissistic time where everyone wants their 15-minute of fame. They want their Facebook status to be part of what's going on. My concern is that people are going to want to jump in and become part of the narrative. So a guy on a construction site whistling at a gal walking by, okay, maybe he's a jerk for doing it, but nonetheless, that's not sexual harassment. That's just a guy. I mean, is that where we're going to go with it? Because people want to become part of this. They've got to become part of this status. That is my concern as to where we're going with this.
Well, another part of this, she talked about how the judges can be a crapshoot for whether you get on or off. The cops can be a crapshoot for whether or not they decide to charge or not. I remember one police officer one time, now this is going back, so it's going back, but there was a case of something similar to this. And I was new, and I said, well, what are we going to do with this? I said, there's not really enough evidence to charge this. And he said, you know what? Let's lay the charge and let the courts sort it out. And you know what? Let's lay the charge, let the courts sort it out. You're talking a $10,000, $20,000 investment.
Does this mean we're going to see a whole bunch of court cases based on, Joe Blow made a sexual joke and Mary Jane was offended by me? Look, I mean, it's a slippery slope. The allegations have to have merit. And you have to really think of the consequences to both parties. That's why I'm saying, look, let's not diminish these accusations coming forward. They deserve to be looked at. But for those who, want to become part of this story, you better think real carefully before you point the finger of blame.
I to be honest with you, to answer your specific question, I think you've been asking us, do we think that there's going to be more charges laid? I'd like to think that the police officers, and I've met some who have a good discretion, some who don't. But I'd like to think that with those specific cases where it's there's the recognition that it doesn't actually amount to a criminal offense.
Sure, but we do know that in this kind of climate, they might feel a pressure to do something that maybe in a normal circumstance they wouldn't. I got to wrap it there, but I want to thank you both.
There'll be more to talk about.
Well, I know there will be. Russell.